Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Anne and Martin. And it's time to go through the papers now. Joining us this morning is writer and commentator Candice Holdsworth, alongside political editor of HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield. Good morning to both of you. One final time with emotion. Kev, let's kick off with you. A really interesting story here from The Telegraph. Because of surging mortgage rates, there's a boom in people taking in lodgers.
Yeah, my eye was drawn to this story by a great picture of Rigsby from Rise and Damp, who was obviously a famous...
He's the ultimate lodger, wasn't he?
Ultimate, yeah. Well, he had the lodgers, and he was a terrible sort of slum landlord. But yeah, because of, as we've been discussing all morning, rising interest rates, rising mortgage costs, on top of all the other cost of living problems that people are having at the moment, experts are predicting that folk will start taking in lodgers as a way of helping to bring down their own personal costs. You know, you charge a room, and
it's a traditional British way of helping out.
Absolutely, think of Eddie Yates in Coronation Street. One for the kids there. But yeah, and I didn't realise this, that the government has a thing called a rent a room scheme, whereby if you take in a lodger, you can earn up to £7,500 a year tax-free as an encouragement to do it.
Gosh, that's worth knowing.
Yeah, now it has to be fully furnished accommodation, so you know you need to obviously be pucker. But yeah, it's something I think that at the moment people are just looking for any way to bring their own costs down, getting a bit of extra income. And as you say, it's something that maybe...
Do you know, that's very interesting, isn't it? Because we have a homelessness problem we're going to be talking about later. But, and we talk about the problem with young people sofa surfing and everything. If there were a properly organised scheme, and clearly there are the bones of it there, to actually get back to old-fashioned Britishness and take in a lodger, maybe it would work.
And they're mentioning as well that a lot of people turned their spare room into an office, a home office during the pandemic, and having to work from home. Obviously, people are back in the office, most of them anyway, these days, so spare rooms going free, why not turn it into a bedroom to take in lodging? Now, it's not for everyone. Not everyone probably likes the idea of a stranger coming to live in their home, but if you're up for it and you're willing to take someone in...
And if you applied for this government scheme as well, which would make sense, because then you're getting a double income in a way, then hopefully there's some sort of regulation.
Absolutely, yeah.
And somebody keeping an eye on the whole thing.
Yes, indeed. There's certain standards, obviously, that you have to meet, so you're not just...
I think that's really interesting.
Very interesting. Very good. Candice, we were talking earlier about Boris Johnson, and his first column was about the weight loss jab. And now, apparently, what a great surprise, there's a massive shortage of those jabs.
Yeah, so this is a story in The Independent on the front page. It's about a shortage of the weight loss drug Ozempic. So it's usually only prescribed for people who have type 2 diabetes, but GPs are able to prescribe it off-label at their discretion, and a lot of people who don't have type 2 diabetes are using it for cosmetic reasons because they just want to lose weight. And because of this huge demand, there are shortages now, and people with type 2 diabetes can't get it. So now they're saying, OK, maybe you need to restrict the use of it. It can't just be for cosmetic things. It has to be if you have a genuine health concern. And I have heard longevity experts say that you shouldn't really use these drugs unless you really need to. I mean, you should be using exercise, diet management, that type of thing to lose weight. But I feel like that's the culture we live in now. So many things that maybe people only would have used if they had a strict health concern, they now use for cosmetic reasons.
It's interesting because, like, Elon Musk started this trend, didn't he, in terms of, like, popularising it. Jeremy Clarkson also partook. And you can go online to an online pharmacist, and within moments you can lie about your body weight, you can lie about your body mass index, you can lie about your height, and you can get this stuff posted to you without any real checks at all.
What I would say on that is, because I've read a lot about it, and I've got a friend who was on it for a while, and even Boris Johnson said in his column, it only seems to work for a while, and then if you haven't changed your lifestyle, really, you can put the weight back on again. And I point you towards Jeremy Clarkson and Elon Musk and others. They're not exactly slender, are they?
Boris Johnson should ask for his money back.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you have to think about that too, whether they actually work for... they do work for diabetes, trying to prevent and help diabetes type 2. But if you're just doing it to try and lose weight, mind you, that's a good idea as well, to prevent you getting diabetes type 2. But it may not work for you long term, perhaps without doctors, say, oversee or something, I don't know. It's clearly not, everybody's calling it a wonder drug, and it clearly isn't.
Yes, and there was a woman writing in the Mail 2 weeks ago who said she actually became quite depressed using it because she likes eating. Eating's great pleasure for her, and she'd look at food and feel nothing. And that actually made her quite unhappy.
Yeah, the real answer is it's not more jabs, it's less BAPs.
Yeah.
Just eat less. Just eat less.
Put the fork down.
Yeah. But if it was that simple as just eat less, we wouldn't have a problem, would we? That's the trouble. It ain't easy, and everybody's looking for help, I suppose.
So, Kev, this brings us neatly onto your story. In the Times, cut prices supermarkets told amid claims of profiteering.
Well, yeah, so it's interesting, isn't it? We spoke earlier on about Jeremy Hunt getting the heads of the banks in to tell them to help mortgage holders. And now the government is also looking to put pressure on supermarkets not to put up prices as well, which is unusual for a Conservative government, really, to be so interventionist, you might say. But politically, they realise that the cost of living crisis is the number one issue for voters, the length and breadth of the country, and they need to be seen to be doing something. Now, there's a suspicion that inflation, one of the reasons inflation is going up is because supermarkets are profiteering. They're putting their prices up artificially to get their profit margins back up again. And now the flip side to that is the supermarkets say, no, that's not true. We price as competitively as possible. You would expect them to say that, obviously. But the government clearly are willing to intervene and are looking to talk to them and say, look, guys, keep these price rises to the absolute minimum because, well, inflation is...
It's not very Conservative, that, is it?
Well, absolutely, that's what I mean. I mean, it's just not at all. And it's the type of thing that maybe you expect maybe a Labour government to be much more interventionist, whereas the Conservatives are supposed to believe in the free market, but clearly they know that politically they need to be seen to be doing something.
I mean, this is straight out of the Corbynomics book, isn't it? I mean, this is big state socialism. It's governments meddling in private supply chains.
I know. As a lot of people have said, what are the actual ideas driving this Conservative government? They're not in any way a recognisable Conservative government. But like Kevin says, the election's coming up and this is going to damage them badly. So they've got to do something about it.
The supermarkets have got to respond, though, haven't they? And will they?
Well, the thing is, though, if you go to the supermarket and you do notice, when you go to Tesco, for instance, it's not a plug for Tesco, but you do see, price match with Aldi. So they realise that they do have to compete with your Aldis and your Lidls, because they are...
And Aldi are doing advertising, which is really aggressive, saying this is 43p at Tesco, but go to Aldi and it's half the price.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, amazingly aggressive.
Yeah, so maybe the answer is maybe people
that's
shop
free
around.
market for you.
But then you've got the same politicians getting rid of the bug-off deals, buy one, get one free, so they're kind of nanny-stating us into eating less, but actually it means less value and less choice for the consumer. I know nowadays you hardly get any offers.
I know.
Down the supermarket. I used to buy my food around what was on yellow ticket or what was on offer, but you hardly see any now.
I know. Actually, I wonder how we would have done without the likes of Aldi and Lidl. I mean, people probably would have been struggling a lot more now to buy food, so thank goodness there is that choice.
Yeah. So we talked about the homeless story. Prince William canvassed in the Express to carry on his mother's legacy of taking on homelessness.
Yeah, so obviously he's inherited this huge estate now, the Duchy of Cornwall. So he's a big landowner. So what Prince William said is he wants to develop on that land to help solve homelessness. It's quite funny, though, property rights are very important to me, but when it comes to these sort of like aristocratic landowners, I kind of turn into a frothing communist a little bit, especially when you realise there's just not enough house building anyway. House prices are so high, young people can't get on the property ladder. I think it's good that he's open to that idea, though, and that he does want to do more, and he recognises that, just owning huge tracts of land that nobody lives on isn't good for anybody. So, I'll give him that. I'll be charitable in that respect.
Well, I mean, the Prince Charles before him did some wonderful work with the Prince's Trust, which still continues. I mean, absolutely brilliant work, particularly for young people. And if Prince William is going to try and... He's thinking of his legacy as Prince of Wales, isn't he?
Yeah.
If he can actually do something about the homeless problem, he's looking particularly at young people, sofa surfers, like we were talking about earlier, people who at the moment have got no prospect of even a rented home, let alone getting on the property ladder, and just trying to give them somewhere to live. So it's decent, very important.
But then a cynic, Kev, might say, well, you've got a castle or a palace or three going spare. You can put some homeless people in that.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's what he's doing,
and that argument has been made many many times. I'm not sure they would probably go quite that far as to bring in a lodger, for instance, in Buckingham Palace, etc. But I think the other thing is, what you've got to take your hat off to is the Prince William and Kate's PR operation. It is absolutely fantastic. They only ever see positive headlines about things that they're doing, such as this, positive, progressive project. And I think it jars slightly with the negative.
It makes a nice change, doesn't it? Yeah.
His brother and Meghan get. So
they're just sort of stalwartly getting on with the job in a way, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Very impressive.
Kev, superb, great news out there if it's heating up and you want to have a cold beer, because beer lovers have come to the rescue of the ailing hospitality business.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, as you're saying, this weekend is to be absolutely roasting hot, I think, across the whole country. And the Sun says that beer lovers have heroically downed an extra 21 million pints in the past 3 months.
Oh, you mean they've just drunk more?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Compared to this time last year. So that's an industry and job saving 72,332 extra barrels of beer have been sunk, which apparently, according to the Sun, is saving the ailing hospitality business. Now, we know that pubs and restaurants suffered hugely as a result of the pandemic, and people are definitely going out less because the prices are very high.
Yep.
But, that great British bulldog spirit, we're drinking for Britain.
Drinking for Britain, absolutely. We've always been able to do that.
I love the idea of that you're a hero if you drink a load of beer when actually you're probably not. But it is good news, though, Candice, for, as Kev said, hospitality was absolutely hammered by lockdowns. Many pubs closed and never opened their doors again. I know a lot of landlords personally who went to the wire, got through their life savings. So on the one hand, it's a bit of fun, but on the other hand, hospitality is a big employer in Britain. It's an important story.
Yes, huge. Travel and hospitality were absolutely decimated during COVID. I knew people who lost their companies that they'd spent years building up. It was really, really sad, and they've never recovered. And it's something we haven't really reckoned with. So yes, to see support for the industry in this way is very important. I think if you can help out your local pub, do it.
Superb.
Yeah. Before we move on, we've got to cover this. A nap a day is good for your brain.
Yeah.
Yes.
It can keep memory loss at bay, and research has found that regular nappers have bigger brains.
Yeah, well, those of us who do breakfast shows...
Well, absolutely. Naps are very important.
And get up with the lark. This is just brilliant news. So there's been a study that shows that people who have a short nap at least once a day, like you say, have bigger brains. It can stave off the risk of dementia. And there are so many cognitive benefits. You're just a lot more alert, awake, aware. And it sort of goes against a lot of conventional wisdom, where you're seen as maybe a bit lazy if you take a nap, but actually there's a huge amount of benefit to it, so maybe it's something to keep in mind.
Absolutely, no doubt after 21 million extra pints of beer, we all need a bit more than that. and why not? Doctor's orders. Candice Holdsworth and Kevin Scoville, you've been fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank you for
very
joining
much.
us. It's been great fun. Thank you.
Thanks.